Why multi-level marketing should be outlawed. Introduction. Few economic organisms have proved as oddly resilient, or as slipperily rebranded, as multi-level marketing, MLM. Born from the same dubious genetic pool as the pyramid scheme, it has, over decades, perfected the art of disguising exploitation as entrepreneurship. To the uninitiated, MLMs offer opportunity, self-employment, and financial freedom. To anyone with a calculator, they offer a mathematical impossibility wrapped in motivational slogans. Across the United Kingdom and the European Union, consumer law has evolved to target the most blatant pyramid structures. Yet MLMs continue to flourish, skating precariously on the legal edge between marketing innovation and financial deception. This essay argues that multi-level marketing should be outlawed entirely. It examines the intricate, and, frankly, laughably thin, legal division between pyramid selling and MLM, analyzes the inadequacies of existing British and EU law, and proposes legislative reform to protect citizens from an industry that sustains itself not through sales, but through seduction. Along the way, we'll use a touch of humor to stay sane, because if one spends too long reading MLM promotional material, one begins to suspect that reason itself has been converted into a downline. Part I, a brief history of the pyramid in business attire. The pyramid scheme, in its raw form, is ancient. Its structure, where each participant must recruit others to earn a return, is as old as greed and gullibility themselves. The classic model is simple: A pays B, who pays C, who must recruit D through Z to get their money back. Eventually, the whole thing collapses when there are no more Ds or Zs to recruit. The difference between a pyramid and an MLM, according to those with a vested interest in selling vitamin powders by the kilo, is that MLMs claim to sell a genuine product or service. The revenue, they say, comes not merely from recruitment but from the sale of tangible goods, cosmetics, supplements, energy plans, scented candles, or, in some cases, highly questionable coaching packages. Yet, as numerous investigations across the UK and EU have shown, in practice most MLM participants earn their income, if they earn any at all, through recruitment rather than product sales. The distinction, then, is one of form rather than substance. The pyramid remains, only now it wears lipstick. Part 2, the legal landscape, UK and EU perspectives. The United Kingdom. British law has long recognised the dangers of pyramid schemes. The Trading Schemes Regulations 1997, derived from the Fair Trading Act 1973, attempted to draw lines between legitimate direct selling and unlawful recruitment-based models. These were replaced and refined by the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations 2008, CPRs, which implement the EU's Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, 2005/29/EC. Under Regulation 9 of the CPRs, pyramid promotional schemes are explicitly prohibited. A pyramid scheme is defined as one where a consumer gives consideration for the opportunity to receive compensation that is derived primarily from the introduction of other consumers into the scheme rather than from the sale or consumption of products. In theory, this definition should have sent MLMs packing. But in practice, it left a convenient loophole. If an MLM can show that some income is derived from genuine product sales, it can argue it is not primarily a recruitment-based enterprise. Thus, MLMs survive by maintaining the appearance of retail activity, often by requiring recruits to purchase stock themselves. The customer, in other words, is usually the seller. The European Union. Across the EU, the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive and the Misleading and Comparative Advertising Directive prohibit schemes that misrepresent earnings potential or rely primarily on recruitment. In 2016, the European Court of Justice, ECJ, reaffirmed this in case C515/12, Belgian Consumer Protection v. 4 Elements, holding that even if a product exists, if compensation depends chiefly on recruitment rather than sale to final consumers, the system is an unlawful pyramid. Despite this clarity, enforcement remains inconsistent. National regulators often lack the resources, or the political will, to challenge large, multinational MLMs with battalions of lawyers. The European Commission's 2021 report on unfair practices noted that cross-border enforcement in this area was weak and fragmented. In short, EU law recognizes the problem, but struggles to stamp it out. The result is a legal absurdity. An activity universally acknowledged as exploitative remains technically legal so long as it sells something, no matter how overpriced or unnecessary that something may be. Part 3, The Mirage of Legitimacy. We're not a pyramid scheme. Every MLM's first line of defense is the same: we're not a pyramid scheme because we have products. One can almost hear the collective sigh of regulators who have heard this line since the 1970s. The argument is akin to claiming a casino isn't gambling because the chips are colorful. Take the example of Herbalife, one of the most prominent MLMs globally. In 2016, it paid $200 million to settle charges from the U.S. Federal Trade Commission that it misled consumers. While this was an American case, the business operates widely in Europe, and the same structural issues apply. Most distributors earned next to nothing, while a tiny fraction at the top took home millions. The UK has seen similar structures. Companies such as Cleanies and Betterware, once household names in the direct sales scene, collapsed under the weight of unprofitability for ordinary participants. Meanwhile, new digital age MLMs, peddling crypto tokens, wellness powders, and online courses, continue to flourish, often marketed through influencers who promise passive income and a boss babe lifestyle. In each case, the supposed legitimacy comes from the presence of a product. Yet, if the only people buying the product are the sellers themselves, the operation is a pyramid in all but name. The maths of misery. A fundamental law of arithmetic, not economics, dooms all MLMs. In a classic 10-level structure, each recruit brings in 6 others. By level 10, there are over 60 million people in the network, nearly the population of the UK. Clearly, this is unsustainable. A 2011 study by the Consumer Awareness Institute found that over 99% of MLM participants lose money after expenses. Even the Direct Selling Association, DSA, the industry's own trade body, admits that the median annual income for its members is negligible. To call MLMs opportunities is rather like calling a lottery ticket a career plan. The harm, however, goes beyond economics. MLMs thrive on manipulation, the exploitation of trust, friendship, and family ties. The recruitment process turns social circles into sales channels. One might joke that the fastest way to lose friends isn't politics, it's joining an MLM. Part 4, The Psychological Machinery. The Cult of Positivity. MLMs operate not merely as businesses but as belief systems. They use language borrowed from self-help seminars and prosperity gospel sermons. Participants are urged to believe in themselves, to ignore negativity, and to visualize success. In this context, skepticism is treated as moral failure. This relentless positivity is not harmless. It creates an echo chamber in which cognitive dissonance flourishes. Recruits blame themselves, not the system, for their losses. They work harder, attend more success summits, and buy more stock, digging themselves deeper into debt. The business becomes a form of emotional control. To borrow from Orwell, MLMs replace reason with doublethink. One can fail repeatedly, yet still be told they are succeeding if they keep believing. The gendered dimension. In the UK, as in much of Europe, MLMs disproportionately target women, particularly those seeking flexible work around childcare. The marketing is soaked in empowerment rhetoric. Be your own boss, work from home, financial freedom, yet the economic reality is regressive. Women end up performing unpaid labor, selling overpriced products to other women in the same position. The sociologist Kate Bowler calls this the commodification of hope. It's capitalism with eyeliner and hashtags. And it's a scandal that it's legal. Part V, the legal fiction of direct selling. One reason MLMs persist is their ability to cloak themselves in the mantle of direct selling. The Direct Selling Association UK, DSA UK, lobbies tirelessly to present MLM as a legitimate micro-enterprise sector. Its members claim to provide flexible, low-risk business opportunities to hundreds of thousands of Britons. However, low risk is a curious phrase for an industry where 99% of participants lose money. The DSA's own code of conduct requires members to ensure that earnings representations are truthful and not misleading, yet numerous consumer investigations have found DSA member companies making outlandish income claims on social media. Enforcement, again, is toothless. At EU level, lobbying has been equally effective. The European Direct Selling Association, CELDIA, positions itself as a defender of entrepreneurship and gender equality, even partnering with EU institutions to promote women's economic participation. This is, frankly, perverse. To promote MLMs as a tool of empowerment is like promoting gambling as a form of savings. Part 6, the case for prohibition. The case for outlawing MLMs rests on three pillars: economic harm, psychological manipulation, and legal consistency. 1. Economic harm. MLMs create no real wealth. They redistribute money upwards from the many to the few, relying on perpetual recruitment to sustain the illusion of opportunity. The model's success depends on failure. It requires a constant supply of new participants to fund those above them. This is not entrepreneurship, it is a slow-motion Ponzi scheme. From a consumer protection standpoint, outlawing MLMs would prevent widespread financial exploitation. Most participants are not financially sophisticated investors but ordinary citizens drawn in by persuasive marketing. They deserve protection, not platitudes. 2. Psychological manipulation. Advertisement. Privacy settings. MLMs are uniquely corrosive because they monetize social relationships. They weaponize trust. Outlawing them would protect not only wallets but also communities. The Misrepresentation Act 1967 and Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations 2008 already recognize psychological manipulation as a form of unfair practice. The problem is that these laws are enforced after harm occurs. A prohibition on MLMs would be preventative, not reactive. 3. Legal consistency. The current legal distinction between MLMs and pyramid schemes is arbitrary. Both rely on recruitment for profit. The only difference is the presence of a nominal product, a fig leaf of legitimacy. Eliminating this distinction would simplify enforcement and align consumer law with economic reality. If a business model cannot sustain itself through genuine retail sales to the public, It should not be legal. Period. Part 7. Anticipating the counter-arguments. What about Avon or the Body Shop at home? Defenders of MLMs often cite venerable companies like Avon as proof that the model can be ethical. Yet even Avon has distanced itself from the recruitment-heavy practices of modern MLMs, focusing instead on online retail and salaried representation. The Body Shop at home, similarly, has faced criticism for mirroring MLM structures. Its own administrators acknowledged that profitability for most participants was minimal. If such companies can exist without the multi-level structure, then the defense collapses. The issue isn't selling products directly, it's tying people's income to recruitment. People should have the freedom to choose. Freedom of choice is a fine principle, until it becomes freedom to be deceived. The state already regulates gambling, payday loans, and high-pressure sales because they exploit predictable human vulnerabilities. MLMs belong in the same category. Besides, most recruits are not making an informed choice. They're sold a dream, not a business. Consumer law exists precisely because the market is not a level playing field between the persuader and the persuaded. You can't ban hope. This, perhaps, is the most insidious argument, that MLMs give people something to believe in. It's true that MLMs sell hope, but counterfeit hope. Outlawing them would not extinguish ambition, it would simply remove those who prey upon it. Part 8. Pathways to Reform. A unified definition. British and EU regulators should adopt a unified definition that classifies any compensation structure reliant on recruitment as a pyramid scheme, regardless of product. The test should be simple: if participants earn more from recruiting than from selling to external customers, the scheme is illegal. Enhanced enforcement. Consumer regulators such as the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, in the UK and the European Consumer Centres Network, ECCNet, across the EU require greater resources and cross-border cooperation to identify and prosecute MLMs masquerading as legitimate direct sellers. Public education. Financial literacy campaigns should explicitly address MLMs. Schools and community organizations could teach the mathematics of exponential recruitment, showing, for example, how even a modest branching structure becomes impossible within a few levels. A well-drawn pyramid chart can save a household thousands of pounds. Corporate accountability. Social media platforms that profit from MLM advertising should bear legal responsibility for hosting misleading claims. Influencers promoting MLMs should fall under stricter advertising disclosure requirements, with penalties for non-compliance. Part 9. The broader ethical argument. At root, MLMs raise profound questions about the morality of capitalism itself. They exploit not only individuals but also the rhetoric of aspiration. They transform community into commodity and friendship into finance. Outlawing MLMs would send a powerful signal that not all enterprise is virtuous, and that markets require moral boundaries. Britain and Europe pride themselves on consumer protection and fair dealing. To continue tolerating MLMs is to condone a form of structured dishonesty that punishes the trusting and rewards the ruthless. Moreover, outlawing MLMs would liberate the concept of entrepreneurship from its most parasitic variant. Real entrepreneurship involves innovation, risk, and value creation. MLMs involve repetition, deception, and value extraction. The sooner we divorce the two, the healthier our economic culture will be. Conclusion. Multi-level marketing is the legal cousin of a financial confidence trick. It survives through semantic gymnastics and regulatory inertia, feeding on the hopes of those it purports to empower. The distinction between MLM and pyramid selling is a fiction, maintained only to protect an industry that produces little but broken promises and unsold stock. British and European law already acknowledges the harm of pyramid schemes. It is time to extend that recognition to their cosmetically enhanced descendants. Outlawing MLMs would not restrict enterprise but restore integrity to it. To borrow the kind of aphorism beloved of MLM trainers, if you find yourself at the bottom of a pyramid, stop digging.